Thank you, Alvin, for the introduction. I've been looking forward to this session because in the next 90 minutes, I will become a speaker rather than a conference organizer. So I kind of changed my hat. I can relax. I can do the things that I'm doing well, and to interact with delegates and, on this very important topic about walking. This is, one of the research areas that I've been spending a lot of time in the last few years. But of course, air quality is something that I've been working on for more than 10 years. And to combine the two into something really meaningful in this discussion, I think is very important. And hopefully, after the presentations and also two other presentations from my fellow, speakers in this panel, we can have a very vivid discussion about how to make sure that pedestrians would also enjoy clean air as they are walking. Now, if I may just start by saying that to promote walking, for those of you, including yourselves, in this conference, we all know that this is not something local. Actually, it's becoming something global. We are talking about cities in different continents, all going after the same outcome and going for the same courses of action, which is to encourage people to walk more. And to do that, yesterday we heard a lot about paradigm shift. We need to change our mentality when we plan our city. And of course, we need to plan our city not for cars, not for vehicles, but for people. So, having a pedestrian-first mentality in planning is really, really important. Why we should do that? And, is it enough to just think that we need to plan for that pedestrian? I think one thing we need to be clear is that, when we think of the pedestrian connections and facilities, very often we look at it from a traffic engineering angle. So we consider, footpaths and, all these bridges, underground tunnels as a thoroughfare, as a corridor for pedestrian flows. But other than that, I think we should also think of it as a place, as a space in the city, probably the most important space in the city for people. So other than walking very efficiently in those corridors, we want to enjoy, we want to spend time, we want to look around, we want to have a good experience and attractive environment in which we really want to, improve our quality of life as we walk. So I would argue that actually there's a dual function for all the pedestrian facilities. One is to make sure that we move efficiently around the city from A to B. But another important function is how to make sure that this is an attractive space for every one of us to enjoy. So with that understanding, I think that's how and where we can change our mentality when we plan our city and as we design the space. This is also very, very important. There are many benefits associated with walking, and I don't think I need to go through the whole list. As a matter of fact, I think the most important thing that I want to emphasize here is the environmental benefits associated with walking. As we commit more space to people, usually by taking away some vehicles or including some traffic calming measures, in that process, there will be less vehicles around the pedestrians, and with that arrangement, chances are air quality will improve. There will be less energy burned, and of course, then there will be less greenhouse gas emission as well. Now, but think about the chicken and egg issue. Should we make sure that air quality, especially the roadside air quality, is good enough before we encourage people to walk more? Or is it the other way around? Now, if we encourage people to walk more, but then if roadside air quality is bad, are we actually trying to kill more people? So, I think as a planner, as we think of, how we are going to promote walking in a city like Hong Kong with all the constraints and the density, we should do both, I think, at the same time, by promoting walking and also to make sure that air quality at the street level is good, is healthy, so that we can all enjoy and have a good experience. Now, I think some of the earlier speakers has already covered, why walking is important to Hong Kong. Walking basically is things that we do every day, is by necessity, is not a choice. We have to walk. And as a matter of fact, 80% of the people in Hong Kong walk every day. Okay, and 9% of our journey are made on public transport. So for the first mile and last mile, most of us would walk to the rail station or the bus terminus to get on to the second leg of the journey. And then by getting to the destination, bus stop or rail station, we still need to walk to the final destination. So this is how we walk or include walking in our everyday commuting. Now, in Hong Kong, I think if you get a chance to explore the city, some of the districts are more walkable than others. But I would say, some of the neighborhood areas, especially those close to MTR stations or public transport interchanges, there are a lot of areas to be improved. I think we can do much better in terms of improving connectivity to the neighborhood, to the communities, so that, people living there or people using public transport from the community can actually benefit for better accessibility to the rail station. So that's something we should, focus on in Hong Kong. I think, like in Central, we have very well-connected elevated walkway system. So we are all happy about that. But in some of the smaller districts, there are so many things that we can do to change and to improve. Now, just a reminder of how dense and compact and layered Hong Kong is. This is a unique challenge, I would say, in Hong Kong compared to other European or American cities. Comparing this to our Asian counterparts, there are other cities similar to, Hong Kong. We are talking about very compact, very dense, a lot of challenge at the roadside, but also, as a layered city, how to connect people at different layers, but also think of the flow or the integration between different layers. So from the street level, moving up to the elevated level, or to get down to the underground level is also a challenge. Very often we will find the bottlenecks and how to make sure that the capacity can handle the flow. I think that's something also important as we think of, the pedestrian facilities here. And we have a lot of skyscrapers. But more importantly, and I know Dane is going to tell us more about the street canyons. In Hong Kong, this is Devoro Central. I'm sure you've heard a little bit about Devoro Central yesterday. And this is exactly how it looks like. So we have tall buildings on both sides. There are a lot of vehicles moving in the middle. So as the morning peak begins, there will be a lot of traffic and air pollutants is going to accumulate. And because of very poor air ventilation, conditions, all these air pollutants will accumulate, as I said, and the concentration will go to a very high and alarming level. Okay, if we move down to the roadside, this is where you have direct interface or interaction with all the vehicles right next to you. And you're so close to the vehicle exhaust, and then, of course, you will be affected in terms of your health. When we look at some of the numbers, roadside air pollution problems in Hong Kong, it is quite worrying. Now, the health impact, of course, is something that we are concerned about. Now, I put together a few slides using data collected from the EPD, Environmental Protection Department. If you look at the two charts here, the first one is nitrogen dioxide. So this is one of the major roadside air pollutants related to traffic. And the second one is RSP, which is PM10, the particulate matters. You look at, the annual average numbers, annual average concentration. You can see there are three very high, very tall bars. And these are all roadside stations. Okay, so when you compare the annual average concentration of nitrogen dioxide in 2014, very obviously roadside NO2 concentration is much, much higher than the other general stations. Now, this one is Tap Mun with no vehicles. It's a small island to the northeastern part of Hong Kong. So you can tell this is a control station, but we have all the general stations, but very obviously the roadside stations performing the worst. Similarly, even it's less drastic, we have fairly high PM2 annual concentration basically across all the monitoring stations in Hong Kong. If we look at the long-term trends, so this chart basically captures all the roadside monitoring stations data since 1990, okay? What you can see is the black line, it depicts roadside stations, annual concentration, again. So for NO2, basically we've never complied with Hong Kong's air quality objectives, which is set at 40 microgram per cubic meter. And these are other stations, urban stations, rural stations, new towns, but very clearly roadside is the worst performer again. Even though, in the last couple of years, we have seen a very drastic drop in terms of NO2, but it's still quite high in terms of concentration. When you look at the PM long-term trend, is going down sharply, which is a good trend, but still, it's more or less comply with Hong Kong's AQO, our air quality objectives. Now, I've been mentioning Hong Kong's air quality objectives, but compare that with the WHO guideline, we are still very lenient. So what I'm going to show you is the WHO recommended level for NO2. Okay, so you can see that actually we are 2 to 3 times higher at the roadside in terms of NO2 concentration, annual average. And when it comes to PM10, we are again 2 or 3 times higher. So these are WHO's recommended level or threshold for NO2 and PM10 respectively, based on their long-term health studies in cities all around the world. This is not, I wouldn't say this is a safe level. I would say, based on the evidence we have collected so far by WHO, this is a much better level. This is the level that they recommended for long-term air quality management. But if you compare the current situation in Hong Kong at the roadside, we are much, much worse than what's been recommended by the WHO. So this is something we need to address very, very quickly. Okay, now what I'm going to show you is something that I really consider very fun. We've done a project with Hong Kong University of Science and Technology in collaboration with Hong Kong Tramway. So we installed some measuring equipment in a tram car. And you can see, underneath a seat at the upper deck, we actually put in some air quality monitoring equipments. And we take air sample as the tram is operating every day from 6 in the morning till 12 midnight. And we have collected more than 2 years, well, I think 3 years now of data. But what I'm going to show you is based on the first year data. And now, for those who've got a chance to get onto a tram, probably this is one of Hong Kong's heritage. Tram is a fairly inexpensive mode of transport in Hong Kong. A lot of people really like to take trams. And it runs from one end of the Hong Kong Island to the other end. So it started from Kennedy Town here all the way along the northern part of Hong Kong to Shau Kei Wan to the east. The best part about this project is tram is running regularly, and we have data collected on a regular basis. And it doesn't just show 1 or 2 points, or we do not collect samples at only 1 or 2 points. Basically, we collect samples all along the route. So we have a lot of data points, and by aggregating all the data points, we can tell in different colors the concentration of PM 2.5 over a year. Okay, and based on this map, you can see that the hotter the color, the worse or the higher the pollution concentration. And the red color, this is Devoro Central, okay, in color red. In orange color, this is Causeway Bay, where we had our cocktail last night. The stretch of tramway right outside Hysan Place, this is where we are, okay. And then we have some yellow color, and then green and blue, okay? So if you look at the color grade from 55 microgram per cubic meter, this is our Hong Kong AQO for PM 2.5. For 30, okay, 30 is not 0. So basically, even for those, for the areas in blue color, we are still talking about a fairly high PM 2.5 concentration. So this is just a starter. If we use to plot that against our daily Hong Kong air quality objectives, so the standard right now is 75 microgram per cubic meter. This is the daily average standard. We're talking about number of days when we exceed our Hong Kong AQO daily standard for PM 2.5. So if you look at this map again, this is worse again in the rural central. So 20 days out of 365, we exceeded our own air quality objectives for PM 2.5 daily average. And Causeway Bay, I think, is very similar. Now, again, Hong Kong's AQO is fairly lenient, I would say. So if I plot it against the WHO standard, which is at 25 microgram per cubic meters, then you can see a very different picture. You know, using the same data and plotting against the same route, the red color, again, the rural central in central and also Causeway Bay, we are talking about 280 days per year with PM 2.5 concentration exceeding the WHO recommended level. Okay, and even for the blue color, which seems to be relatively better or safer, we are talking about 80 days. So we are talking about almost 3 months out of a year with PM 2.5 daily concentration exceeding the WHO recommended level. So in a nutshell, you know, we are breathing in very, very bad air along the tramway. And why I use, you know, tramway as a surrogate or as an indicator to show how bad we are, because along the tramway, most of the area would be street canyons. In some of the areas, I mean, if you want to, you know, explain why we've got some better performance here, because it's the Victoria Park. So in terms of the space and the dispersion condition, you know, in this particular area, it is much better. But here we have a lot of tall buildings blocking the dispersion of air pollution, and that's why concentration is higher. And in this particular part of Hong Kong, you know, the central business district, you know, dispersion condition is very, very bad. And that explains partly why air pollution is very, very bad in those areas. Okay, so, you know, with all these observations, what we are trying to recommend is, you know, Hong Kong has a lot of street canyons, and air quality is really bad in there. So can we focus on all these street canyons, urban street canyons, and try to make sure that the government would pledge to improve roadside air quality there? I think this is something that we can do. And if we can put our focus on the street canyons, we're going to go a long way to improve air quality in urban Hong Kong. And why we focus on all these urban street canyons? Because we have a lot of people working and, you know, operating, walking in there. And, you know, we will then reduce the exposure risk to all these toxic air pollution. Secondly, or specifically, I think, you know, for the long run, I would say, or actually for the short run, for the long run, we should improve the dispersion condition. But for the short run, if we can take away the most polluting vehicles, even if it's only for 1 day, it's going to help a lot. If we can do it, you know, permanently, let's say we do not allow Euro 2 or pre-Euro or Euro 1 vehicles to go into those areas, we will also go a long way to improve the air quality there, because we know the urban morphology condition cannot be changed overnight. But then the traffic composition or what type of vehicles can be allowed in the area can be controlled overnight. So that's something we would like to recommend to the government. And in the long run, as I said, you know, how to you know, deal with or address these urban street canyon issues. We need to improve the air ventilation and dispersion condition. We can only do it by, you know, opportunities when we have opportunities to redevelop. So can we control the building height, or can we make sure that we have reserved a wind corridor with which we can improve air dispersion condition? So these are things that we cannot do it tomorrow. But if we agree on the principle that as we have opportunities with new developments or with redevelopments, we can then impose or implement these requirements with new developments and buildings, then we can improve in the long run. And how would we know that we have made improvements? We need data. Right now, we only have 3 roadside stations in Hong Kong, air quality monitoring stations in Hong Kong. If we have to add one, it will be very expensive to build and to manage. So we can use some new technologies like small sensors, but how to make sure that they're accurate and they're useful. So this is something that the university community and the government should work together to find out ways to collect more data so that after we implement all these new measures, we know we actually are making some real change and improvement. So this is my last few slides. This is what we envision in DVRC Central as a short-term or medium-term measures to take away some of the traffic. So by pedestrianizing DVRC Central, we can reduce the emissions coming from vehicles and improve air quality. And it happened 2 weeks ago. We actually have half-day car-free DVRC Central, and you can see from the pictures, kids and adults are allowed to play around along DVRC Central. These are some pictures that I took. It seems like they enjoy a lot, but this is something that we've fight for over 16 years. And so we got 6 hours, I think, on that Sunday. Hopefully we will have more in the near future. Now this is my last slide. I took 2 pictures on 2 different days. So this one is the one with traffic as usual. And this one is with the roadblock, so we only have pedestrian and trams. And you can see, well, I mean, of course, we can't tell whether air quality is improved or not from the picture. But at least you can see how we change the way we use the space in the CBD. And hopefully we can see more of these in the near future. And I think it will really help us to understand, how we can improve air quality with all these very, very useful pedestrianizing or car-free movement. Thank you very much.